We will ask Chris Cutter to join us here at the podium, but when she's walking, as I mentioned earlier, she's manager of our registry. I would like to ask Bonnie to stand, because I mentioned Bonnie, but she was downstairs. So this is Bonnie who contacts you. And also next to Bonnie is Sonia Krekel. Sonia Krekel is our clinical nurse who is in clinic here, and together with Dr. Rosero, she sees a lot of patients with long QT. Let me help you starting your slides. Yes. Please.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Zariba. Good morning, and thank you again all for coming. So, how the registry works. Closer? Like I'm not loud enough all the time? Okay. I've never been told I'm not loud enough. This is great. The goal of the registry, when it started, was to gain insight into the natural history and clinical course of this hereditary disorder so that more effective therapies could be rendered to prevent the syncope and sudden death events often accompanied by long QT. So began the process of enrollment, consent, and then follow-up. We initially received study subjects from physicians directly back in the old days. Now individuals call us themselves usually, having heard from us either from their physicians or many times now online. There, as you know, are many support groups and things. The first individual with prolonged QTC, which you've now heard a lot about QTC, is called the proband. And we collect ECG and clinical history information for this individual. Next, we begin to gather family history and we construct a family tree. We have one of these for every family in the registry. They look similar to this. Some are small, some are, as Bonnie can attest to, really long, very, very big. We build the family tree around the proband, and then we enroll all first and second degree family members of the proband. If we are able to expand beyond that based on what people share with us, then we do. Being a genetic disorder, gathering a family history is an important step in determining which side of the family the mutation originates and who else may be at risk. In order to build this tree, we either ask you numerous questions on the phone, or we send you our somewhat lengthy enrollment questionnaire. Sometimes we do both. The goal is to collect medical and family history. Due to the HIPAA privacy law, we can no longer contact your family members directly unless they contact us first. Even the people that you tell us you are certain would want to participate, we cannot do that unless they contact us first. So that's when we ask you to either have them call us or we send you those letters that with our contact information and ask you to share them with your family members. Once we have enrolled and consented a subject, we ask for a copy of an ECG. ECGs are extremely important to our study. They are especially important in all individuals who have had genetic testing. We request an ECG at enrollment, which we call our baseline ECG. Then optimally, we would like to receive an ECG one every 4 years for adults, every 3 years for adolescents, and every 2 years for children under 12. Again, that's optimally. We realize that's not always, what can happen. All ECGs are read by our ECG core lab first, and then each and every one is checked over by Dr. Zariba, who reads not only the QTC duration, but also evaluates the T-wave morphology, which is important for recognizing genetic types of this disease. If you have had genetic testing, we request a copy of your genetic report. Some of you are in possession of something that looks similar to this. This is obviously de-identified, but we cannot code a person as genetically positive in our database unless we are in possession of the actual report. We enter specific information from this report into our database. Having an ECG and an accompanying genetic report allows our doctors and statisticians to explore the genotype-phenotype relationships of this unique disorder. All information that you choose to share with us is kept confidential. All paper forms are kept in a swipe-only access room that is kept closed at all times. And all subjects are assigned a unique personal identification number within each family. We generate monthly reports informing us about results of genetic tests in the registry, such as this. This one, for example, tells us how many subjects have tested positive or negative for genes 1 through 12, and which subjects are coded as obligate. Obligate is a code that we give subjects who have not had genetic testing, but we know based on the test results of family members that they are obligated to be positive based on the generation above and below. If above and below you are both positive, then you need to be positive, or where would they have gotten the mutation from? So that's what the OBL positive means. Once enrollment is complete, your family is assigned a follow-up month, which I'm sure that you are all completely aware of. Once a year, at the beginning of your assigned follow-up month, we send you a follow-up questionnaire. When you fill these out and return them, we take your information and we enter it into the database. This information is then available to the programmers and statisticians for data analysis. Reports are generated each month, updating our enrollment statistics on both probands and family members. For the past 39 years, we have sent all of our follow-ups based on just U.S. mail. And as you know now, we can offer online follow-ups. We were very excited about that, as I know some of you were. So since June of 2018, we have been able to offer this option. This is an example for some of you who did not choose online follow-up. This is an example of part of the online follow-up as it looks. This option has many benefits, both to you and to us. However, we are still more than happy to mail follow-ups, and we are still happy to do phone follow-up because it gives us opportunity to talk to you all. Now, the challenges for myself and Bonnie and Becky, who is not here today, is when we get incomplete responses, which can happen via email or via mail. That forces us to make guesses, which, on our part can be wildly inaccurate. We realize that many people cannot remember the exact dates of events or medication changes. I know I can't. For myself, for my children, whatever, it is very difficult. However, you would have to think that your best guess on what happens with you is better than our best guess, as hard as we try. So if you fill out follow-up every year, which we appreciate, then we can estimate that your event or your med change is somewhere between the date of your last follow-up and the date that you sign this follow-up. However, if you miss a year or two, then that gap widens, and then our estimate is rough. And then we're in the position of guessing something that means if you've had a med change and you've had an event, then we have to make a guess that may have us make a mistake of you might have an event and a med change, and are those two things happening at the same time or different times? And that's important information for the statisticians to know, because that's what the doctors need to know. Did you have an event, and were you on this medication, whether it's a beta blocker or not a beta blocker? Because as you've heard, those are the things that they're researching. So again, your best guess is better than our best guess. So that's why we ask you, make your best guess and try not to leave it blank so that we have to make a guess. Some of you are also part of our ICD LQTS Registry, which aims to investigate who benefits the most from ICD therapy, assess response to ICD therapy, analyze complications, and inform the medical field to practice based on good scientific evidence. We need to stress that thanks to your willingness to participate, we're able to conduct extensive research on LQTS. This research is able to improve the diagnosis and management of LQTS patients. Every time a paper is published, we report clinical history data, genetic data, cardiac events data, and therapy. This slide shows an example of a table from a recent 2018 paper by Drs. Bitton and Zariba on ICD therapy and LQTS. The table lists clinical characteristic data including age, sex, QTC, family history, treatments, etc. This slide is a graphical presentation of the risk of ICD shocks over time in patients with a QTC greater than or equal to 550 milliseconds and less than 550 milliseconds. This data analysis could be accomplished only because you provide us with detailed information regarding the date of events. No data would be available without your contribution to the registry. So, from all of us, thank you.